President Trump said that they intend to continue negotiating, but, will this, 10% tariff rate come down? British officials are pretty confident they will. I'm not sure that we're getting that same level of confidence from the US.
So first of all, I know there's a lot we don't know about this trade deal, but can you explain what we do know so far?
Well, what we know is that this was a deal that came about really quickly. We heard today that will actually it's, some people call it a starter deal. Some people call it a framework deal. The president and the prime minister called it historic. And what it will do is it will keep the tariffs, the US tariffs of 10% in place, but it does give Britain some preferential treatment as far as future tariffs, something that a British official called future proofing. And it lowers the tariffs that Britain has and allows the US to do a little bit more exporting. There's a lot of other different components. For instance, and I think this might be one of the most important, the tariff that Rolls-Royce will face drops from 25% to 10%, which is enormously important considering that Rolls-Royce and other British, auto manufacturers were really looking at layoffs and possibly plant closures. So, it provides a basis to keep talking. They're going to keep talking about liberalizing trade. And British officials told us throughout the course of the day repeatedly that they believe that they will continue negotiating and they believe that they can lower the effective tariff rate that the US charges on British exports.
And can you explain one of the big issues here in the UK, that one of the concerns about a potential trade deal before it was all agreed was on potentially growth hormones in beef and also chlorinated chicken. Now, the UK government's very quick to say food standards are not going down, but beef exports are coming in. So just explain to us, is that beef that won't have growth hormones in? How will it work?
You know what? I'm still trying to understand all that myself, to be completely blunt. The British officials that we spoke to today told us that they had really held the line. And what we heard from US officials is that they would respect existing laws. And which is not to say that they didn't want you to admit that stuff.
Yeah.
They tried awfully hard. One of the briefers that we spoke to today said that they'd been like Jesuits, like coming at you over and over and over again. So, but they held fast on that, and so I think that you're probably right that I think it means that there are different kinds of beef, different kinds of meat that are produced in the United States, and they are, held to very high standards, and that there are certainly categories of meat that could expand. The U.S. Agriculture Secretary Rollins told reporters today in the Oval Office that U.S. beef exports would expand exponentially to Britain. That's, probably an indication that there is, there's something there that is in that netherworld between the very firm standards and what is coming. So,
Also talk to us about ethanol, because I know that was a big, important part of this for the US side. Just explain why it's so important and in essence, what is it for?
Well, ethanol is an additive that is used. It's a renewable fuel that's made from corn and plant materials. It's a huge export from the U.S. because the U.S. is, has these vast plains where people grow corn, and there are just I don't know, miles and miles and miles, hundreds of miles of corn growing that are turned into ethanol. And more than like 98% of the gasoline in the US contains some ethanol. It's blended into gasoline to make it, to extend it, but also to make it a little bit more environmentally friendly. So I think the ethanol piece of this is interesting. It's kind of reverting to something that was done during the Biden era, which is a tariff quota, a type of quota that allows a certain amount of ethanol to come in.
There's some suggestion here in the UK, certainly from critics of this deal, that this deal is better for the US than it is for the UK. For example, clearly some tariffs are coming down, but if you compare what the UK is going to be paying now compared to before when Trump came into power for a second term, the UK is a lot worse off. What's the general assessment in the US about who's done best out of this deal?
Well, I think that, I mean, the way that this was being sold in the United States, and particularly at the White House, is that this is the first of many deals that is going to happen. And it is one that rewards or reminds the world that the United States and Britain have a very close and intimate relationship. And it is not, it was described to us as being a not finished deal. It's not the full bells and whistles. It will be worked on. But it gives the president, the US president, a win in the sense that he's got one trade deal under his belt with allegedly dozens more to come. The Commerce Secretary spoke on television today and said that there were dozens more deals that would be happening in the next couple of weeks. I think it's still very open-ended. What we've heard from British officials is that, they will continue working on these things. There will be further liberalization, and they are really convinced that they'll get that effective tariff rate down. I mean, Britain got the, sort of lowest tariff rate that was available. So that 10% is currently in place. Will it be in place forever? I don't know. The U.S. administration said that they intend to. So President Trump said that they intend to continue negotiating, but will this 10% tariff rate come down? British officials are pretty confident they will. I'm not sure that we're getting that same level of confidence from the U.S. On the other hand, the European Union does not have any kind of a trade deal, nor have there been any meaningful negotiations. And so Britain really is in a better place than its European partners at this point.
Andrea, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. Really grateful to you. Lovely to talk to you.
Thank you so much.